to Raven's Ramblings. I am Raven, the voice inside your head in the middle of the night. So, this week's podcast is going to be a little bit different than what I had planned. We are going to talk about some of the common myths about witchcraft, but then we're going to move into kind of the element of fire. And we're doing that because, well, Beltane is this week, and I have a problem paying attention to my calendar apparently. So we're going to talk a little bit about Beltane and some fire magic. So, first, let's start with some of these common myths that I want to talk about. So, witchcraft honestly has a bad rap, okay? So, we're going to talk about that. Some of the more common ones are witches practice black magic. So, that in and of itself is just a false statement because magic is not black or white or good or bad. Magic is neutral, okay? So the energy in magic is balanced. Now, with that being said, that intention or energy can be used in a positive or negative way, okay? But it is not considered black, okay? Black is not evil, black is not bad. You have positives and negatives. There's always going to be a balance. The majority of practitioners only put out those positive vibes with their witchcraft. Some call themselves fluffy bunnies because all they want to do is put out love and light, and that's absolutely amazing. We need that in the world. However, like I've said before, sometimes you gotta put bitches in jars. Now, that's not considered, in my world anyway, black magic. That's just, well, it's just different. Okay? It's not black magic. It does have a more negative connotation to it, but it's not black magic. Okay? The next one I want to talk about is witches sacrifice animals. Absolutely not. Okay? We, as witches, respect nature. Okay? Now, in witchcraft, there are what we consider sacrifices. Okay? Now, we sacrifice our time, we sacrifice our energy, those kinds of things. We sacrifice or make offerings of things. Like we may offer a beverage or we may offer a snack. I actually, looking over at my altar right now, I have a chalice that has rum in it that I offer to my deity that I speak to Hecate. I also have a chocolate bar over there because who doesn't like chocolate? Okay? Like, I feel like me, as someone who adores chocolate, sacrificing that or offering that is a big deal to me because now I don't get to have it. Okay? It's similar to what the Catholics do, for Lent. They give something up. Now, if they give something up that didn't really mean anything to them to begin with, then it, to me, isn't as effective. So when I put something as an offering on my altar, I want it to be something that was important to me. Okay? Now, I also have other things like uh, I have I have two black dogs and a black cat. So any of their little fur that comes off, like during the brushing or that I've vacuumed up, I will clean it a little bit and get the dust out of it, and I'll leave that as an offering for Hecate on my altar. And that's because, well, Hecate is black dogs. So, but that's a little more detailed. But we do not sacrifice animals. I do not shave my dog to offer their hair to Hecate. I pick up, what's been brushed out or whatever. You can actually hear the little tippy tap of toenails behind me of one of my little black dogs, or my little black dog. My other one is 80 pounds. This one's about 3. But, so those are the types of sacrifices that witches do. Now, we may offer herbs, those are a sacrifice in a way, those are an offering. Some people put money on their altars, especially if they're doing a money bowl recipe. So they're going to sacrifice being able to spend that money that they do have in hopes that it's going to grow for them, that kind of stuff. So, moving on, another myth is witches only wear black. Okay, now this one, in my defense, I wear black the majority of the time, but that's a personal preference. I love the color black, and it's mainly because my ADHD won't allow me to wear bright colored clothing. Okay? I just can't do it. The color distracts me and it bothers me, and it honestly gives me a headache. So I do wear black most of the time, and usually in the form of a t-shirt with a smart ass comment or a picture or something on it, because I'm in my late 40s, but maturity wise I'm about a 15-year-old boy. So, but it's just personal preference. I've seen witches that wear bright reds and yellows, and some that wear blues because that's their signature color. And look, Hollywood does a lot of things for us, and a lot of those things are not always good. We do not wear black all the time. That's just silly. Another myth is witches brew things in cauldrons. Not really a myth, but not really true either. Some witches don't even have a cauldron. I personally have, well, I can see about 4 right here in my little area. But I also like herbal things, so I will use it for stuff like that. Now, we are not brewing up poisons and potions that we're going to use to harm people, or that whole Macbeth, eye of newt and tongue of frog and things like that. Which, incidentally, those things in that recipe from Macbeth, they were all herbs. They weren't actual animals and stuff. But that's another research project that we'll get into later on. So, a lot of witches that do herbalism may use some type of cauldron. A lot of them will use a modern day cauldron, okay? And what those are? Crock pots. Electric cauldrons. Look, we all got to move into the new millennia, and sometimes it's easier just to throw things in a crock pot and walk away, because not everybody has that open fire that they can, put that cauldron over and brew whatever they're wanting to brew. So, that one's kind of true, but not in the context of Hollywood. See what I'm saying? Okay. Next one is witches worship the devil. Come on, people. There is no Christian devil in witchcraft. Okay? It's just non-existent. We don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Some people, and there are Christian witches. I know that sounds crazy, but there are. There are Christian witches. And they may, use the devil in things that they do or don't deal with, because of the Christian part of their religion, okay? But as far as just basic witchcraft and Wicca, there's no such thing as the devil, okay? That is a Christian connotation that we just don't use. We just don't have that. Most of that it stems from fear-mongering type stuff, just religious propaganda. So, not a big deal. The next one is witchcraft and Wicca are the same thing. Also not true. So Wicca is a religion, okay? that may include witchcraft. All right? Does that make sense? Witchcraft itself is a practice. Wicca is a religion. All right? Witchcraft is not really tied to just a specific religion, because you have Wiccans that practice witchcraft and Wiccans that don't practice witchcraft. Okay, they just do the worship aspect of it. You also have Norse pagans. Okay, those may practice a form of witchcraft. It may look a little bit differently than mine, you know, but it's still considered witchcraft. So, Wicca is a religion in itself, witchcraft is a practice. Okay, the next one is all witches are women. No. Witchcraft is practiced by the full spectrum of genders, and the term witch is not gender exclusive. Okay, a witch can be male, female, uh, trans male, trans female, whatever. It doesn't matter. Non-binary, MB, all the things are witches. Okay, wizard is something different. Sorcerer, something over there, probably in D&D, but witchcraft practitioners are witches. Does not matter what gender, sex, whatever. Okay, so that is not a gender exclusive thing. The next one is witches curse or hex people regularly. Now, while some may practice more baneful magic, we'll go with that, more of the negative side of it, most witches follow an ethical guideline and focus on things like healing and protection, and then self-awareness and self-development. Okay, cursing and hexing people regularly takes a ridiculous amount of time and energy, and honestly, I think most of us are probably too lazy to be trying to do that all the time. I know I would be. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to let those kinds of things live rent free in my head for too long. So, no. Most are just going to follow a more ethical guideline. We're not out here hexing everybody just because. And now, some of us may want to, but don't cut me off in traffic, because I'm gonna, yeah, that's not the point. The point is, most are more ethical. Okay, we're not gonna let that kind of stuff and that anger and stuff take over, and that negativity take over. The next one is you have to be born a witch, and there are some people that do believe this. They will tell you they are third generation natural born, I don't even know, hoodoo practitioner from wherever. And that's great. That's great for them, but you do not have to be born into that. Okay? Witchcraft is a practice. It is a learned skill. Anyone can become a witch with, if you take that time and study and practice and focus that intention, anyone can do it if that's what you want. You do not have to be born into it. You do not have to trace back this hereditary witch line that honestly is very few and far between. Okay, I'm sure there are some out there that's legitimate, but the majority is just BS, blowing smoke up your ass, and nobody needs that. The next one is witches fly on broomsticks. I ain't flying a damn place, 'cause I'm scared of heights. I sure as hell ain't gonna get on some flimsy broom and be, floating around in the sky. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, granted, it would be more convenient to be able to jump on something and just fly over to wherever and visit a friend, but that's just silly. Okay, Nobody's flying around on a broom. Uh, Now, there are, different herbal concoctions from the medieval times, and I've got that recipe here somewhere, where people would rub an ointment on themselves and they would feel like they were flying on brooms and so forth. But that was really more of a hallucinogenic than actual flying. Okay. Now, if anybody out there has actually flown on a broom, by all means, send me a message. Let's talk about it, because I want to know how you did that. Okay. But brooms are very symbolic, or besoms, okay, for witches. A besom is very symbolic in our craft. I have a absolutely beautiful black and purple one that a friend gave me that I use to cleanse my space when I get ready to do some workings and stuff. And some people have them over their doors. Some people hang them on their walls. Just remember, bristles up. Okay, don't be putting your besom bristles on the floor. And some people actually use them for sweeping on occasion. Now they may have a separate besom type broom for sweeping, and then a separate one for practical workings with their craft. Um, but they may have both. Now, some of these are really popular around Christmas time because you get those cinnamon ones that you see in all the grocery stores. Um, and of course, they smell amazing and they're pretty to look at. Now, those are on the cheaper version. There are some that you can have custom made for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they are made to your specifications with the type of bristles and colors and all the things. But that's not practical for most people. I do not have $500 to drop on a beautiful besom, no matter how much I want it. I have not been able to justify that to my wife yet, so I'm still working on that. And the last one I've got written down here: witchcraft is evil or dangerous? No, uh, it's neutral. Okay, it is neither good nor bad, um, white nor dark, white or black, whatever. It is neutral. You know, the the intention behind your spell or your ritual is what is going to define the energy that's put out there. Okay? So the magic itself, the witchcraft itself, is a neutral entity or neutral energy. Okay? It's all about what you're putting behind it. Okay? That's the important thing. Okay, so that is the most common myths and stuff about witchcraft. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different ones out there, but those are just the most common ones that I've come across. So, moving on from that, we're going to talk about Beltane, okay, because it's coming up this week. Beltane happens on the night between April 30th and May 1st. Okay, it is one of the most anticipated and bright and vibrant Sabbaths of our practice. Okay, it is a celebration of life and love and fertility. Fire, of course, is the height of spring. Everything is coming alive. You know, the winter has finally gone completely. Everything is warming up and turning more green, and there's just bustlings of life everywhere. Okay, witches traditionally would light bonfires on Beltane for protection and blessings. They and these are really cool to me. I don't know why I've always loved them, but I have maypoles. So you take this large pole, put it in the ground, and then you tie ribbons around the top, and they all kind of hang down, and everybody comes in, grabs a ribbon, and weaves in and out, and go around the maypole. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and that's to honor growth and union. Okay, and we also wear flower crowns to celebrate that this is spring and everything is alive and awake. Okay, this is a very, very powerful time for fertility magic and for love spells. Protection rituals, of course, because fire is a very good protectant. A lot of people leave out offerings for nature spirits and for the fae, because this is another time of the year where the veil between the worlds is just a little bit thinner. Okay, it's not quite as thin as Samhain, but it is thinner because it's just one of those Sabbats, and the veil gets a little bit thinner at those times. So, feasting is a huge thing. Okay, you hear my cat in the background jingling bells at us. Uh, Feasting is also huge, and it's all about those gatherings and stuff. So we make things like honey cakes and put out fresh fruits and herbs, and honestly, it's just a joyous occasion. Okay, so there's going to be dancing and singing and being outside. Um, One of the most powerful things I did in a circle I was in years ago was dance around a Beltane bonfire. And there was beautiful music, and it was just so freeing. We were barefoot, and it was just absolutely magical. And I know that is a cliche. I know it is. But it really was. And it really, really hit me hard. And that was one of the first um, Sabbats that I had participated in with other people. Because I am a solitary. I do things on my own because of where I live. Now, granted, I did not stay with that circle I was with at the time, but those moments just absolutely cemented the fact that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, so Beltane is all about celebrating life and joy. So get out there and cast those spells, light a candle, even just a candle is still a good way to honor Beltane because of the fire. Soak up that sunshine, okay? Because, well, before it gets too hot, because down here in the south, we know that now that fixing to hit May, it's going to get extra, extra warm. So, moving on from Beltane itself, which is, like I said, the night of April 30th through May 1st, we're going to talk about some fire magic. Okay? So, fire is one of the oldest magics known to us. Bonfires, candles, the hearth in a home, cremations. You know, fire has always been more than just heat and light to us as humans. It is very transformative. It is very powerful. There is a lot of passion in fire. I mean, think about it. Everybody talks about meeting that love and that spark. That's the start of a flame, is a spark. So it all goes down into the fire stuff. So basics: fire represents the south and summer. Um, Action, it represents that energy of action. Courage, like I said, passion, drive, that commitment to something and just doing it. Purification. Fire is the great purifier. It can reduce things to its most basic element. It is used to burn away what no longer serves. Okay, so if you're trying to release something into the void, into the universe, and rid yourself of it, Write it down. Burn it. Okay, and that takes it away from you, reduces it back to its basic form, and lets it go away, and just releases that energy out into the universe to be reused somewhere else. Okay, because energy, can neither not be created nor destroyed. It can just be manipulated, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, we're manipulating and um, I lost the word I had in my head. But we're using the energy that's already there. Okay? We're not creating energy. We're manipulating it and pushing it in a specific direction. Okay? So, thinking about the ancient times, okay, hearth fires, the heart of the home. We have a fireplace. We have never put a fire in that fireplace, but that is still the hearth of our home. Okay, we it is the central location for things. Okay, now Beltane fires, they in ancient times were leapt through for fertility and for luck and stuff. They would burn different things, different types of herbs or trees or whatever, and that was considered part of their sacrifice. Okay. It's not subtle. Now, think about that. Fire is very bold, very in your face, very destructive in a way, but it is a very bold statement. It is not soft, it is not subtle. It is boldness and change and motion and tons of energy and passion. Okay? So, not all of us can just go out and make a bonfire. A lot of us live in the city, and that's just not an option for us. So, we can use smaller stuff like candles. Candle magic is one of the most simple ways to work with fire magic. Okay? And for me personally, I love candle magic. I have, well, a ridiculous amount of candles in and around my altar. Some of them are electric, true enough, but the majority of them in a plethora of different colors, because we all know colors mean things, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. But colors matter. Not always. Like, if all you have is a green candle and you need to do it for love, baby, do it. It's okay. There's no hard, fast rule that it has to be a certain way. We've talked about that since the beginning. Work with what you have. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door and go, hey, I'm here to investigate that you used a green candle for love, and, we're not going to allow that. That's just stupid. Okay? You do what you need to do. You do what works for you, and everything will be okay. Alright? But if you do have a ridiculous plethora of candles like me, and you want to pay attention to your colors, then we're going to go over some of the basics. Red candles are used for power, passion, lust, those kinds of things. Okay, red is a very powerful color, so it's very in your face, so it's going to be used for those types of workings. White candles for purifying, cleansing, that kind of stuff, or an all-purpose. All right, a white candle is good for whatever, because it's kind of like a neutral in my eyes. Now, I use white candles for my god and goddess stuff a lot of times, but white candles can be put in place of anything. Okay, black candles are good for protection and banishing. Okay, now I do have a lot of black candles. My basic candle that stays on my altar all the time is black, because I black is one of my favorite colors. So yeah. Green is used for abundance and healing. Okay, so if you're going to do a money bowl spell, you're going to use a green candle if you have one. If you don't, that's okay too. But if you want to get down to specifics, then a green candle is your best one. Okay? Now, purple, which is my favorite color, is good for psychic work, spiritual growth, intuition, those kinds of things. Okay? I honestly do not have a lot of purple candles. Um, if I do, I usually put them away because I have a hard time burning them because I love purple and I don't want to use them up. Not that I can't just go buy some more, but well, I'm a little chaotic hoarder sometimes, especially when it comes to my craft supplies. So, but yeah, personal favorite is purple, and I've actually used purple for my goddess before because that's what I had at the time. So, with that, if we're doing some candle magic, you can dress your candle. So, you can carve different symbols or sigils in the wax and then anoint it with an oil. Some people anoint it with that oil and then roll it in different herbs for whatever purpose they're seeking. Okay, so like we were just talking about the abundance, if we were doing a money spell or a prosperity spell, we might have a green candle and then anoint it with cinnamon oil and then sprinkle some basil on it. Okay, that all of those things are going to bring about that abundance or that prosperity, and they're going to work together. It's kind of like that last one I said about if you're going to build a swimming pool in your backyard, you can go out there and dig it with a spoon. It might take you 40 something years, but if you get all the tools together, you can have it done in a week or two. See what I'm saying? So, now these things are not required, but sometimes they make setting those intentions a little bit easier. You know, setting that focus a little bit easier. All right? So, while that candle burns, if you're working this candle magic, this candle spell, watch that flame. Okay? Let your subconscious kind of dive into that flame and just watch it for a little bit. Um, some people use flames as divination. I personally do not. I can see where someone could, but I just get so mesmerized by the flame itself, I get completely distracted. So, there are different aspects to that. But just take those moments, watch that flame, and focus on it. Okay? Some other fire rituals and stuff. A simple release spell, like I was talking about. Write down what you want to let go of, whether that be something you fear, or anger, or guilt, or whatever. Write it down, get you a fire safe dish, light that sucker on fire. Let it go. Put it out into the universe and let it be cleansed, and just get it out of your own psyche, because that stuff will eat you up and nobody needs all that. Another one that I personally do is use bay leaves. I write things down on bay leaves, kind of like a request or a petition to the universe. Like if I was looking for a new job, I would write that on a leaf. Or if I'm looking for protection or success, or if you were looking for love or whatever, write it on that bay leaf, burn it, and just let it out there. Okay? Some people cleanse their glass spell jars with fire. So if they're getting ready to make a full spell jar, they're going to take a smaller candle, run that candle all around the outside, all around the inside of that jar to cleanse it. Um, some people do, some people don't. Some people run it through water. I personally will run things through a candle flame if I know, it's not going to hurt it and melt it and stuff like that. Um, all right, so um, one of the main things you do need to remember practicing fire magic, whether it be candles or bonfires or your fireplace or even your gas stove. Okay. Oh, before I forget, candle magic. One of the easiest and quickest candles to use, birthday candles. They come in a variety of colors and they're super cheap and they burn down really quick, so you're not waiting 3 hours for a candle to burn down to finish your spell. So, just a little tidbit there. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is fire safety. Okay, we are not going to be leaving open flames just anywhere in our house. I personally can't do that. I have cats. But even if you don't have animals, there's always that chance of something being knocked over or something fluttering, a piece of paper caught by the AC or whatever flutters over and it hits that candle and catches on fire. So, fire safety is a must. Okay, always have like some water or sand or whatever nearby just in case. Just in case. I am the just in case queen. I always have shit just in case. Okay, so it's very powerful. It demands respect. You have to respect fire, period. Be safe about this. So, um, you can balance your fire with things like water, herbs, earth practices, things like that to make things a little more balanced. Some people do, some people don't. Not a big deal. Okay, but the main thing, yeah, I know I'm jumping. My brain is a little ADHD tonight. Uh, so fire safety, practice those little candle spells. They're super simple, super easy, and you don't even have to have a specific thing in mind. If you just want to take that time, stare into that flame, and meditate just on your own self, honey, do it. Do what feels right to you. Okay? That's what really matters. Okay? So, one little thing that I've got here, just this little writing I've got. The phoenix rises from its own ashes. Fire consumes, but also rebirths. So let that be your magic this week. Not just burning down what no longer serves you, but choosing what you'll become next. Fire's the great equalizer. Okay? Alright. So, next time on Raven's Ramblings, we are probably going to be talking about empaths because that is something very near and dear to me personally. Um, yeah, sometimes that's hard to turn off. Um, but we're definitely going to be talking about empaths and who knows what else we may throw in there just for shits and giggles, okay? So, until next week, light your flames with care, burn your intentions boldly, and as always, stay curious, stay kind, stay a little witchy. Bye.